Okay, so Anna Rose Cod, you're very welcome to this short interview as part of Roscommon CCC Recruitment Week. Anna is the course director and a lecturer at Athlone IT, and we'd like to welcome you. So we're just going to jump straight into it.
Thank you very much, Anya.
No problem at all. So can you give me a quick overview of your experience in the early years sector, and what, in your opinion, has been the biggest milestone in the provision of early learning and care during this time?
Okay, Anya. So I suppose just to give you just a little bit of my background, for over 20 years, I have I set up a sessional preschool here in Wexford. So I worked for over 20 years in the sector. And we served the local community. We served, just at that time, it was an emerging sector. So from the outer community and neighbouring communities, children joined us. And during that time, we I guess we evolved with the children and the families.
Yeah.
I started off in the local hall first off, and then as the 1996 regulations come in, and there was a lot of focus on premises and so on, I got planning permission and went through all the rigors of setting up actually here in my own home.
Okay.
So it was great. I got funding at that time again from a county childcare committee, so it was wonderful to have that start.
Mm-hmm.
And then during that time, I started off with very little qualifications, but very, very quickly I realized I need to know a lot more than I did. So I engaged then, and I undertook a degree and masters, all of which focused on early childhood education and care. So I did that then up until from 1995 until 2016. And then actually in 2011, then I started lecturing in AIT on the degree program there. And I suppose we're going really from strength to strength.
Mm-hmm.
In AIT. We have a dedicated early childhood education and care lab, which our classroom where our students can get an insight into the layout and the design, work with different materials and so on. But again, going back to my background, I have engaged in field trips. I've had opportunities to go to Norway and Italy, the Netherlands and China to observe practice there. And supported by AIT as well, I have presented at various conferences, both in Ireland and in Budapest and in Greece. And again, wonderfully supported by AIT, I'm undertaking my PhD research, which is into outdoor pedagogies.
Oh,
so that's just a little bit about my background. And then I was thinking then, when you had asked about the milestones, and you know what, there are so many, but and one that I love, and it was one of my very first assignments when I undertook my undergraduate program, was on the UNCRC. It has been pivotal, really, in highlighting and bringing centre stage to children, and I think essentially childhoods as well, which opened up for us the idea that childhood, it's a universal concept, but childhoods are so different depending on essentially who you are, where you're living, socioeconomic background, and so on. And then when I started up in 1996, we had the regulations. But now when you think about the 2016 regulations and the very child-centred focus in the 2016 regulations, of course, then we have minimum qualifications. It's wonderful to have a dedicated minister as well. And we also, of course, have Ashton and Shilta, which underpins all our practice.
Yeah.
First five, again, the importance of that, seeing that as a whole government strategy, which acknowledges the first 1,000 days of children's lives and the importance of quality education and care and environments there. As well as that, we have currently the DES, and as it was then the DCYA, just developing their award criteria, the professional award criteria and guidelines, which helps to guide us as providers
Mhm.
of education for the sector in best quality, or the best quality there. But so I guess when I look at all of those wonderful milestones, I see that vision in 2000, to make Ireland the best place in the world for children and families to live. And but I suppose we're not there yet, and it's essentially we're evolving, but I think we're certainly on in the right direction.
Definitely. Brilliant. Okay, so what advice would you give to someone thinking of pursuing a career in the ELC sector?
Well, Anya, I think like any profession, we have to have a knowledgeable workforce.
Mhm.
So how are we getting there? You think about coming into this profession, you have to be reflective educators, thinking about what we're doing, and not just thinking about it at a surface level, but really critically evaluating what we're doing.
Mhm.
Being reflexive as well, bringing in our own values and our practices and so on, and thinking about the attitudes that we have, because all of that will influence what we do. I suppose at a personal level, our own dispositions, being approachable, being personable, being a team worker. And again, having that sense of fun and engagement. It is, I suppose I love it, because you just get that every day is unpredictable, but just in a wonderful way, unpredictable. And like many other professions, and especially now as well, it's both challenging and rewarding. I won't say in equal measures, but there are definitely those days that
Yeah.
when I often did it, I often questioned, was I doing a good job, and was I doing good for the children, and that always made me really evaluate what I was doing. So it wasn't that it was something that I was always critical. It's great to acknowledge what we do well. And that's part of, being a knowledgeable workforce. Acknowledging what we do well, but also acknowledging, where we need
Mhm.
further knowledge and experience. And that's the importance again of engaging in CPD. And I suppose during my time running my own service, it was wonderful to see. It was always wonderful to feel that you were part of the young lives of children and their families.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, incredibly seeing children that we had in our preschool setting coming back as parents. So it was incredible. It was that cyclical experience, and again, when they remember lovely things,
Mhm.
it really affirms what we are doing,
Yes.
which is just great. But bottom line is a knowledgeable workforce, being
Mhm.
able to articulate and advocate for our children.
Yes. Yes. Okay, Anna. And kind of moving on to that, then, moving on from that and probably linking in, what are the benefits of having a graduate-led workforce in the early learning and cares in early learning and care services?
Yeah, and I guess it's at this time, sort of 21st century Ireland, 21st century globally, how connected we are
Mhm.
across the world, and how knowledge comes to us, immediately. So being able as professionals to really have knowledges, values, and practices, being able to evaluate and critically evaluate all of the knowledge that we get. So it's not just about, you know, um, reading something and just taking it,
Mhm.
as a given, but
Yes.
being able to examine it. So
Mhm.
thinking about, our workforce then as well, having that professional identity,
Yes.
being able to evaluate knowledge from, the diverse sources that we have. And again, when we think about ourselves as professionals, as early childhood educators, in doing that, we are committed to that profession. And being committed to that profession then means engaging in CPD. So irrespective of where I think I am on the spectrum, I'm always looking for that new information so that I will, even or as a lecturer, I suppose engender that whole idea of evaluating and examining the knowledge that we have. Because I love the way Urban Nadal talked about it when in the review of professional
Mm-hmm.
profiles, he talked about knowledges. It
Yeah.
wasn't just one source of knowledge. So
Mm-hmm.
we have our and I think it's a growing Irish research, but also both European and international research. So evaluating all of that, thinking about ourselves in terms of our professional identity, pedagogical leaders,
Mm-hmm.
focusing not only on what children learn,
Mm-hmm.
but also on how children learn.
Yes.
And I always say to the students, you know, we are researchers. As soon as you walk into the early year setting, you're observing. So
Yeah.
you're researching all the time how it is that you're going to support the children. I think when we come to that stage, you know, and I think we're on that pathway of having a very strong professional identity, we see ourselves then, you know, what we need essentially is to work within that competence system
Mm-hmm.
that Urban et al. Talked about. And I think seeing ourselves on a par with other professionals, it allows us then to very confidently articulate, you know, our practice, our vision, and our ideology. And again, you know, while and I, you know, I know we're going to come along to it as well, you know, in terms of challenges and so on and sustainability. But you know, our workforce as a graduate-led and informed workforce can play a pivotal role then in informing policy and practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, so then moving on to the courses available at Athlone IT. How can they support and be beneficial to early years practitioners?
I suppose, first of all, the courses that we offer in AIT, we have a 3-year level 7,
Okay.
we have a 4-year level 8 ab initio, and then we have a 1-year level 8, which sometimes maybe our students will they can exit at level 7, they might go off and get some experience in the sector, and then they will come back then and do the level 8 program.
Okay.
So they provide those opportunities for the students to engage in and explore quality practice.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm really focusing here, you know, when I'm thinking, as we mentioned earlier on about Ashton and Shields, just the importance of quality. It's
Mm-hmm.
practice. Practice isn't something that just happens. You know, we really have to evaluate it in terms of quality. And again, looking at it from national and international perspectives, because you know, I'm always saying to the students, you cannot just look at the Te Whariki, or you cannot look at Reggio and literally drop it into Ireland, but we can be informed by best practice. Again, as I mentioned, our dedicated classroom in AIT, you know, the students then can explore and evaluate really rich learning environments and resources that are available there to and that, you know, we try to replicate certainly many indoor settings, so that they will have an idea whatever it is. I have done my training in Montessori and high scope, so we have our Montessori materials, thinking about high scope, how you would, you know, how you would lay out the room, because the design of any early year setting is impacts on what's available and what affordances are there for the children. And I love the way Noreen has talked about it in terms of our role, you know, that idea of a nurturing pedagogue. So, you know, that there is no education without care, and there is no care without education. So our students then will be able to identify and learn about the care needs. And, you know, our focus is on birth to school going age. And in our new program, we are proposing an after school provision module as well, because oftentimes that's simply what happens in our when our students will go on placement.
Mm-hmm.
So that idea of thinking about when they go into our lab in AIT or our dedicated classroom in AIT, where they will be able to evaluate the environments there, you know, think about inclusivity, thinking about design, thinking about the resources. And I would often say to students, if I gave you €20, you know, what would you go and buy? And the thing is, why would you buy it? Or in fact, would you say, I'm more interested in upcycling, or I'm more interested in loose parts? Would you buy anything at all and say, well, I'll use that for something else? You know, so that idea of having that lab there for many of our students who come in from secondary school, who may not have the experience of those environments. As well as that, in AIT, we undertook different field trips with the students. And essentially, because we have our dedicated classroom, our field trips would focus on outdoor settings. So we have done that over the years as well. Our program also involves our students engaging in group dynamics. So thinking about, it's all about teamwork. They're also aware of management and the administrative work and so on. Food hygiene, nutrition. So thinking about the difference in when we are caring for babies and the older age group, whether or not it comes to the feeding or encouraging the children's independence and so on, and the nutritional value, inclusive practice. And all of this then is it under, I suppose it runs parallel. It's part of that overarching aim of integrating theory and practice.
Yes.
As part of the program as well, our students will engage in group assessments as well as individual. So, you know, we ask them to be creative because we have our drama and you know, where the students again engage with children, because we have children who come into AIT as well, or who have been doing so before COVID.
Yeah.
And again, you know, so that the students then are aware of, well, this is, you know, the different groups and the different age groups and the different dynamics that happens, of course, as well. So our students get plenty of opportunities to engage with the materials in different ways and present them in different ways, because that really, it really sort of works towards the strengths of the students as well.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, Anna Rose. So my final question would be, if you had a one-to-one meeting with the Minister for Children and he was going to grant you one request, what would that be?
Oh, I was thinking to myself, one request. I was thinking, how long would my list be for the Minister? Well, I suppose, you know, and you know, it's a very serious matter, but you know, one request, if I could do it in one long sentence, I would put lots of things in that. But anyway, so what would I do? I would say the first thing is, you know, to promote the value of quality early childhood education and care continuously. It's not something that when there's a crisis, it's talked about. It is a part of so many people's lives every single day. You know, and sometimes I get very sad when I think when child care is talked about, you know, and then it's cost. But really, it's early childhood education and care. So childcare sometimes might come with the connotation of I'm minding children, but we are working in a very professional role with the children. So I'd say, Minister, please continue to promote that. And then, you know, I'll put, so I'm still in the one sentence, you know, ask for an affirmation of the ECEC workforce as professionals. That's because that's what we are. That's what we do. Recognition of ECEC as a public good for society as a whole. And then, of course, for the children and the families. And then, you know, that crucial bottom line, you've got to invest in the infrastructure. You've got to invest in the ECEC sector, you know, through funding and through obviously pay and conditions, so that we are valued, respectable and sustainable. So I would say thank you very much, Minister. I would like all of that, you know, to be the top of your agenda.
Perfect. Okay. So Anna Rose, we've reached the end of our interview. I'd like to thank you on behalf of Roscommon County Childcare Committee. I'd like to thank you very much for taking time out to speak to us for Recruitment Week, and thanks very much. Thank you.
That's great, Anya. Thank you very much indeed. Best of luck with it.